Welcome. I was trying to decide if I wanted the ring light on and it blinds me. And I feel like this is a cozy vibe. We're gonna go with it. Awesome! There's going to be a snowstorm, so I'll probably be snowed in and be able to do cool things like reading books or what have you. All of the cats are so confused right now, sniffing the tripod. Okay, let's start this thing. I've been putting off making this video because I know it's going to be long and I want to make it as short and sweet as possible, so I hope that I will prevail. Charlie, do you want to get in the video? No? Charlie's about to attack. Alright, so let's start with my 2024 books of the year. Most of these are going to be in chronological order, but for some of them, since a lot of them are manga series, I read volumes in between books. The list of this is not in my favorites or my least favorites, but in the order in which I read them. So starting off strong with Spell of Desire, a manga by Tomu Omi. It's a 5-volume manga series. I only read 3. First off, I only read 3 because there were only 3 physical copies, and after that, I didn't want to read anymore. I'm so sorry. The art is fantastic. It's what made me pick it up. It kind of looks like me and my partner, so I think it's really cute. But it's a josei, so aimed at 18 to 30-year-old women. It's a romantasy because it's romantic, it's fantasy, but it's also paranormal because the main character is a witch. Did anyone recommend this to me? No. Did I ever hear of it before? No. I saw the covers, thought it was cute, bought it. We have Karoku Mochizuki, who runs an herb shop. A man, Kaname Hibiki, he enters her shop one day and reveals that Karuku is a witch. Soon enough, we learn that Karuku cannot control her newly found witch powers and that Kaname has to help her control it. So I'm pretty sure she has like a magical plant power, but she charms men to desire her? Listen, it's been a year since I read this. I read this time last year. Anyway, it wasn't enjoyable in my case. Well, Kaname tells her that her mom is actually alive and not missing, and that she is actually the queen of the witches, and that Karoku now has a bunch of like spirits and demons and humans after her because they're coming after her because she has the powers of her mom. The romance, basically non-existent. I don't even remember anything about the characters, but even if I read it yesterday, I would say I wouldn't recommend this based on the romantic dynamic. I did read a review and someone said that they were kissing like every other page, I think to control her powers, and I'm like, I didn't even remember that, but doesn't sound like something I'd be super into because I like some depth, I like some tension, I like some suffering, and I like when the characters are strong. These characters aren't memorable, they're not strong. I'm so sorry. I hate being so strongly opinionated, especially when it's a book I haven't read in a while, but this is the impression that's left me with, which is so sad because I was really looking forward to a beautiful book. And apparently, to the people who read it also in the reviews, it was intended to be spicy, it gave nothing, which I think is a lot to say if they were kissing like every single page. So, I originally thought it was published sooner just based off of the look of the manga, but it was actually published in 2017. It did not read like a modern romance. It could have been better. Personality for the characters, some more world building. There are some parts where they meet new people and they go to a new setting, but I think the world building, I mean, it's just 5 volumes, you know what I mean? Wish we gotten their insights on the arrangement of Kaname becoming her kind of like knight in shining armor to protect her, but we didn't really get that. I mean, it just has a great outlook at the beginning. It's a main character who owns a cute little tea or herbal shop, discovers she has magical powers. It sounds like the perfect setup. A cute guy comes in to protect her. Not impactful. I don't recommend it. I'm sorry. Number 2, a manga I would recommend, but I know it's not gonna hit for everybody. Mainly, I like this manga because it kind of got me out of a reading slump. Even though I did read Spell of Desire, this manga I blazed through it and then I went and bought the rest of the volumes, which is to say a lot to buy physical volumes of a manga. One, I didn't really know about like, ooh, I can read manga on an actual app. So I was like, oh, I have to buy the physical copy. I was in Columbus and I went to the book loft and I was looking through the manga, purely judging off of covers and what the summary said on the back, and I ran into In the Clear, Moonlit, Dusk. Had I ever heard of it? No. Is it new? Fairly. So, In the Clear, Moonlit, Dusk was published by Mika Yamamori. She is also the illustrator. It's 8 volumes. It's currently running, which is disappointing because I want to read more of it, and I think it's like slightly on hiatus. I don't think officially, but she's taking some time. So I read, I think, 6 volumes. It is a young adult slice of life shoujo. It takes place, I believe, in high school. So Yoi Takiguchi is a girl, but everyone thinks she's a guy because she has a deep voice, she's tall, she's boyish, she's charming. So she's kind of nicknamed like Prince Charming of the school. So no one actually like sees her as like a cute, attractive girl, you know, basically friend-zoned. Ichimura, a boy in her school, also referred to as a prince, although more of him, if I remember correctly, he's an heir to like a company, or like he has some like family with like important status, I think. So he wants to know her more. She's awkward, she's unsure how to interact with him. He's closed off and never actually been very open with the girls that he has been with. And it's a somber kind of tone. There's like comedic moments that I remember. The characters, they have some personality. I can't tell you that they have like the most in-depth, interesting hopes and fears and personality because, like I said, I've read a lot of these 300 plus days ago, but I can tell you it's natural. They have a growing dynamic, and it's a slice of life exploring first relationships, identities, and friendships, and I did feel that. I mean, it's only like I only read like 6 volumes, so I'm sure there's more to come. It got me out of a reading slump. I recommend it if you want to try it. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever. The third book I read is a nonfiction book called Creating Characters, The Complete Guide to Populating Your Characters, written by Writer's Digest in 2014. This was a blind read. I saw it come in one day and I was like, oh, I want to read that. It does have good information. It has divisions between different type of characters, like different type of main characters, side characters, the dynamics that the characters will have, what makes an anti-hero, what makes an antagonist, protagonist, etc., right? And how to show instead of telling, which unfortunately I'm not good at, and unfortunately a lot of books aren't good at. I think it was good. I don't remember a lot of things that I didn't really already know before. I don't have much else to say about this book, so that's what I remember about it. And there were some typos, which I'm sorry if you're publishing this from Writer's Digest and it has like a lot of people, you'd think your editor would fix a typo, especially when it has to do with writing craft. You know, not the best book in the world. The fourth one is The Lonesome Era. It is written by John Allen, came out in 2019, and it is a graphic novel standalone, as far as I know. It is a young adult queer coming-of-age novel, graphic novel, and it was recommended by a friend of mine, and I read it at his house very quickly because it was enrapturing. I usually don't read coming-of-age books because I don't like coming-of-age. I don't like coming-of-age movies sometimes too. For one, a lot of the coming-of-age movies feature a lot of characters that are like archetypal and typical like manic pixie dream girls, or like high school movies, and it just doesn't really grab me very much. Spyro, please don't knock over my camera. Spyro, please. I did enjoy this one, and I think the reason why I enjoyed it is because the writer found a way to make it relatable and emotional, and that it was a queer coming-of-age novel, and I haven't really read any of those before. It did have me upset a few times. I was upset for the characters, getting injured, getting in trouble, being unsure, worried about friends. I mean, it's relatable concepts, you know. Camden is a cat who has a crush on his friend Jeremiah. I think he's a monkey. And they're living in Ohio, basically. and he's coming to terms with his feelings while trying to navigate their friendship and the antics they get into. Like how my cat is getting into a plastic bag right now. So Camden basically processes this unreciprocated crush and the conflicted feelings that he has with fitting in, exploring his own boundaries and when it comes to getting in trouble and going with the flow. It was a relatable journey. I think it's a great read, especially for like queer kids. And it was emotional. I recommend it. Heartless Hunter. Written by Kristen Ciccarelli. It was originally published under Crimson Moth, or correct me, maybe it was only published as Crimson Moth in the UK. Regardless, I have seen the Crimson Moth book come in before, so it exists. I'm not making this up, I'm pretty sure. But The Heartless Hunter is known as the Crimson Moth Book 1. So, published in 2024 is Read More current books. And this is a possible duology, I believe. And I say duology because maybe it will be a trilogy. I'm not perfectly sure. It's a teen romantasy, enemies to lovers. When it says it's a teen romantasy, it does feel like a teen romantasy. Unfortunately, I did not like the chapter setup where it flips in between point of view with the main characters. I don't think I like that in general. I know that there are books that I have like that do that, like Game of Thrones, and I can't think of anything else, but I've liked it before. But this one, tying into that POV change is also the plot, where the plot line, and I feel like I'm being critical when I really enjoyed this book. Like, I read it really fast. I did recommend it to people after I read it, but like maybe I had more time to sit with it, or maybe I'm being overly critical. But it feels like there's plot, and the plot line follows the plot line, and there's nothing else really fleshing it out. I'm sorry. I think that it's just too concise. I don't know. Anyway, you've got Rune. She's a vapid socialite, or so you think, because actually she is an intelligent witch among society that has hunted witches to near extinction. She's had to face her grandmother's execution and pretend to be the one to rat her out. And now she's looking for a fiance. Why? Because she wants to date a high-ranking officer that will allow her the freedom to spy out the secrets in a position filled with intel. That way she can rescue witches and rescue people harmed by the current institution. How will she do that? With her merchant ships. Yeah. She's a bad okay? Alright, she wants to find this man, right? Well, Gideon Sharp, he's a witch hunter, he's powerful, he seems perfect. Ironically, he also has his eyes set on her, but because he has suspicion she's a witch. That's right. They're gonna date. They both think they're tricking each other, okay? And they're both getting things out of it. Well, pace-wise, it was too fast for me. Slow down, world build. That is really the thing that I wish the most. Also, I feel like the ending was a little rushed. Characters that kind of come in, I think could have, I don't know, I feel like you could have sat with it a little. I don't know. This is all coming from a year later, right? Anyway, it was intriguing. It's not like super unique since like it's a sorcery is outlawed and the girl's hiding her powers, which I'm literally reading one of those right now. One Dark Window, I'm reading that and it's literally the same. But, I mean, it is original in some ways. I think it's really interesting that the witches use blood to perform the magic and they have to get the blood from themselves, right? But it's a telltale sign of witchery if you have the scars to show it. So she actually uses her menstrual blood, which I think is interesting. It also kind of adds a layer of limited power since she would have to like save it up and it's like a resource that you can't really poof out of thin air. Plot was hitting, but nothing in between needed some more world building. Regardless, I really enjoyed it and I will read the next one. Kind of sucks because usually when I read the next book I have to reread the first one again, but we'll see. The Echo Wife, written by Sarah Gailey, they them. I read it, it's a standalone, and it was published in 2021, so fairly new. It's a sci-fi thriller, and I said in either the last video or the one before that I really don't read mystery, and I guess I lied because this is a sci-fi thriller. But, you know, it's also sci-fi. So this was chosen for the book club that I'm a part of, and that is really all I knew about it before reading into it, besides knowing that Sarah Gailey is like a pretty good author. We start with Evelyn Caldwell, who is a scientist working in genetic cloning. Her ex-husband Nathan is dating her clone, and you're like, oh, because the author never really actually tells you how the character Evelyn finds out that he is dating a clone of her. And so that is an interesting author choice. And needless to say, this clone is made from her award-winning research. And I'm like, girl, if I found out that somebody made a clone of me to replace me in their relationship, you best believe that I am calling the authorities. I don't care if the FBI has to come in. Like, that's messed up, bro. Unethicalness aside, and the fact that Nathan, her ex-husband, literally made the clone Martine to be everything she isn't, which is obedient, stay at home, and to produce a child, which is just so, you know, don't even get me started. Without spoiling the entire book, Martine and Evelyn strike up a truce. Let me tell you, the more time that passed, the less I liked this book, which is saying a lot because I didn't love it when I was reading it. And I did really like the concept. Like, the concept is very interesting. It could really have had a lot more potential, in my opinion. But Evelyn wasn't a remarkable character. I actually was hating her when I was reading her. I'm also usually not this critical of books, I'm sorry. But she was unlikable. And you could argue that it's on purpose to highlight how her clone is approachable and how she is just miserable, but her clone is also hard to like. And I don't know if it's because it's the stereotype that she's filling or if the author also did that on purpose, but unfortunately I also hated her ex-husband because he straight up cloned his wife and forced her to be subservient to him, of course. I do pity Martine because she is a clone that's man-made and that, you know, she isn't going to, you know, experience much more besides being a fill-in for someone who wasn't good enough. And it doesn't seem that Nathan really likes her that much either. I don't know what to tell you. I couldn't find myself caring about what happened to any of them. There was also like a assistant in the lab that she works in, and he was like kind of an interesting character. But basically everything in this book to me was predictable, except one spot that actually wowed me, and it has the most weight in my mind. It's the thing that impressed me the most. But I predicted things that even made me not really like the side character assistant in the lab. A lot of things didn't make sense in here. Besides the science, which a lot of scientific words were thrown in, but I don't feel like it actually landed very well. Besides that, how is it a secret that your ex-husband has a cloned wife that looks exactly like you when you're going to dinners to, like, with your scientific friends and stuff? Like, how does nobody really know? Oh, that's a clone. That's illegal and unethical, and how did that happen? Apparently nobody knows about the wife? Okay, whatever. Second, scientifically, the clone, besides the fact that we have not cloned humans yet, because hello, it's a sci-fi, right? But looking beyond that, it literally says that she has the genetics for something that isn't possible in the book. So like, how did that happen? You know, that's unrealistic. And then third, she's literally sneaking into the labs at some point and there's no security. Let me tell you, she's sneaking into the lab like in the middle of the night. Okay, whatever, she has clearance, whatever. There's security cameras. Are there not security cameras in this genetic cloning lab? I'm sorry, like all of this, like if you've seen a lot of true crime or like read a lot of mysteries, like everything they were doing was stupid and did not actually have the material. So that really had me upset. Don't get me started on the ending, because I think the ending was maybe the worst part. It was so unsatisfying. I'm sorry. I can't even say anything else about this. Anyway, it's not something I would gravitate to. I'm glad I read it. I can say I read something in the mystery genre. Give it a read. It's really short, like 200 pages or something, 230. So maybe you'll like it. I don't know. Fine. Unfortunately for me, I just talked to a camera for 30 minutes because apparently I don't have a lot of storage. The next one is also something I wouldn't have gravitated towards. It was recommended to me by a friend and colleague, and it is called The Man in the Holocene. Is it about a man in the holocene? No. It's about a man in his house, fairly isolated from others and surrounded by nature, but he does clip out pictures from these science and geological textbooks talking about the holocene, including really cool pictures of like animals that lived or like skeletons and like interesting diagrams and stuff. Well, he starts pinning them on his walls, and he starts kind of losing his memory. And that's what this book discusses, is Geyser, this older man living away from his daughter. I think his daughter or granddaughter lives like 4 hours away. And he slowly becomes more confused, and he makes a trek on this mountain during this storm. And I mean, this book is just very philosophical. It is the shortest book I read this year, but it's very meaningful. It grapples themes about loss of identity and searching for yourself, and basically like old age and mortality. I did like how there was a parallel with the Holocene, you know, like a time that shifted and had a lot of changes to the landscape, and you know, like this era of like adaptation and formation geologically, and the parallel with Geyser's own mind and even the transformation of his house. There's not a lot of characters in this. It has him and his cat and his daughter. It's just a commentary on human existence. Not something I would normally pick up. The next one is Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis, and I don't know if this is her first book. I think she's written some other ones, but this one is from 2024. It is a fantasy, but I would call it a comedy. And the blurb said that fans of TJ Klune and Travis Baldree would enjoy this book, and I agree with that. This is a little bit more of a cozy fantasy than a high-end magic system fantasy with a lot of characters and a lot of traveling, because it takes place in a manor. I'm really mad that my camera died because I actually had really good descriptions of these books that I have to talk about again. Anyway, we start with Dreadlord Gabrax, and he wakes up in the lab without his eyebrows and without his memories, and everything's on fire. So he's like, what the heck? And he follows clues left by his servants in their regard for him, that following these clues, he realizes that nobody really likes him and they're scared of him, and he's a villain, and he's kidnapped a princess, and he's also part of this terrible plan in league with these other villains that are FaceTiming him on his mirror, and he just fakes it till he makes it. But there's like no time to fake it till he makes it, because this plan is about to be put in place. So he has surrounded himself with lavish decor, and he is just like, man, this Dreadlord Gabrax, he kind of seems like and he wonders, you know, what really got me to this point, that I have no friends, and even my colleagues aren't my friends, and nobody really wants to be around me, and the village that he's kind of in charge of is like starving or pays taxes or something. And so he decides he's going to be different, and he really is like a Despicable Me Gru character. And I'm not saying that to be mean, because I actually really like Despicable Me, but it really is giving those vibes, because you've got the minions, you've got the girl, which this isn't romantic. This isn't really a romance. That's something I don't really like that much, is that he doesn't have any sort of moral compass. He really is just following what this princess, Ilyasha. Now my laptop's gonna die, but my battery died. Oh my god, I have to make sure I'm recording. So, Dreadlord Gabrax, moral compass princess, several evil wizards you don't really get to know personalities of, a garlic festival. That's it. It was really silly. I didn't expect it to be so silly. It wasn't bad, but it's kind of like a cozy fantasy. Interview with a Vampire. and I talked my head off about this, and it wasn't recording. But you most likely know Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. She wrote it in 1976. It was her debut novel, which is crazy. Also because she wrote it in like 3 months. I cannot believe it. It's a horror paranormal vampire book. It's actually a series, and this is literally amazing. Like, this is what I chase for with prose and with philosophy and with character development. Beautiful. Most of it takes place in New Orleans. There's some taking place in different parts of the world. But the story opens with this vampire and a young reporter with his cassette tape, and he's gonna give an interview. If you didn't know. So, you have Louis de Ponteluc, who tells how he became a vampire. So the one thing I didn't really like about this is that Louis is a plantation owner, which not much else I can say about that, but whatever. So Louis became a vampire in 1791 following the death of his brother. His younger brother, had a lot of conviction in the Lord Jesus of the Christ, and once he died, Louis was consumed. And I mean consumed by drunkenness, because he had no purpose, and his brother had all this purpose and hopes and dreams, and people thought he killed his brother because his brother fell down a flight of steps and nobody else was there. Anyway, he is haunted, and he goes around town and the streets drunk, no purpose, hates being alive, and enter Lestat, the lavish, the lush, the lovely villain that you immediately hate. And I say that because I listened to this as an audiobook, and I listened to half of it as an audiobook, which was like 11 hours, on a bus to New York, and I was falling asleep, not paying attention, and then I decided 6 months later, okay, I have to read the book. And I'm so glad I did, because just reading it had so much more of an impact than listening to it. I wish I could love audiobooks as much as reading the books, but reading in my own words and seeing the words more enjoyable for me. I get more from it. My second read through, an introduction to Lestat, I loved him. I think that Anne Rice just makes these characters very good, very well. I'm not gonna say very demure, but she's written good characters, alright? So Lestat is playing with humans, playing with the women that he drinks the blood from, playing with everybody, okay? He's laughing at Louis's philosophical turmoil as well. Sorry, Louis. This has natures of evil. You have homoeroticism. You have, do my deeds define me, or does my morality define me, or does my immortality define me? Beautiful, phenomenal. Here's a quote I love. I dreamed a dream of angels. I saw them, and I heard them in a great and endless galactic night. I saw the lights that were these angels flying. Alright. Beautiful. Highly recommend. The next book, I also recommend, not as strongly. I mean, Interview with a Vampire is most likely my favorite book. I did have several favorite books before this. Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. Even the Broken Empire series by Mark Lawrence was a favorite when I was a kid. This one, Interview with a Vampire, it just has the Baroque quality that I love, and no, I cannot explain what I mean by that. I don't know. This next one I read is a teen. A romantic fantasy teen, gothic, horror-esque, very woodsy, very folkloric, and it was Where the Dark Stands Still, a book written in 2024. I've read several books from 2024, and I like to do that more in the future, in 2025. And it's written by A.B. Poranek. This one reminded me a little bit of Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I say that because Uprooted was also folkloric-y. It has some foreign words sprinkled in, it has some magic, and it also has a similar vibe, atmospheric-wise, woodsy-wise, and plot-wise. And I say that because I hadn't finished Uprooted, it just didn't I wasn't loving it, and maybe it was just the wrong time. I was also sick at the time, but Where the Dark Stand Still has Liska Radost, a girl with magic that is burdened by it. She is an outcast. Magic is no bueno in this area of the woods, and she wants her magic to be taken away. People fear her. I don't even know if everybody knows that she has magic, or just a few people, but she doesn't want it anymore. And then you have the Leshy, a demon with antlers sometimes, and I say that because I think he might be able to, like, he can shapeshift, but he's often portrayed as having antlers. And he is the master of the wood, protecting it and the villages from these demons, spirits that lives in the wood, which also reminded me a little bit of Emily Wilde's encyclopaedia fairies, which I'll also get into later, because it kind of has a classification of demons a little bit, and I think that's good. Like, I don't want you to say, oh, there's a demon and there's not other types of demons. Tell me more. So yeah, it's written as a Polish retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I know why they're saying that, but I wouldn't say that. For one, it doesn't even take place in a manor. It does take place in the Leshy's forest woodsy home. It just doesn't read like that to me. Liska goes into the woods to find this magical thing that will take away her powers if she asks it to, and then she runs into the Leshy, and she's like, yeah, I don't want my powers, and he's like, I'll strike a deal with you. And so she's basically gonna be living there, and Jaga, a demon cat, shows up, a demon dog ghost shows up, and the Leshy's like, don't listen to him. And she's like, okay, and then she goes and listens to the demon dog, even though it can't speak, right? Kind of. And so it's a lot of her, like, not listening to what the Leshy has to say, or, like, assuming that he's hiding secrets. Like, there's this past lover of his that she's trying to look into. So she's going places she shouldn't. The manor place is, it's not really a manor. That it's, like, showing her things that, like, she's not supposed to because the house is alive. And basically, if they communicate to each other, you know, they wouldn't have such a hard time. Anyway, that was kind of frustrating for me. There are some weird pacings. It's slow at some parts and really fast in other ones, I would say. I didn't feel like there was enough romantic, like, foundation. Maybe I'm picky. I don't know. Yeah, and I mean, you learn the history of the Leshy, and, you know, it's a little action-y towards the end. I liked it. The author's going to come out with The Treasury of Swans in 2025. I might read it. Alright, then we have Kafka on the Shore. This was also recommended by a colleague in front of mine, the same one that recommended Man in the Holocene. This one is written by Haruki Murakami with Philip Gabriel as the translator, and the English translation came out in 2005, the original in 2002. It's a magical realism book, and that's really the best way to explain it, because you're wondering, oh, is this actually happening, or is this a metaphor, or is this a fantasy? It's not really a fantasy. So, setting is Japan. Starts off kind of with a flashback in the World War II era, where this weird phenomenon is occurring, and then it kind of flips between point of views between Kafka, a 15-year-old who's running away from home, and Nakata, an elderly man who was impacted by a strange occurrence in the World War II era as a child, where he lost his ability to read, to be quote-unquote intelligent, and his memories. So now he's leading a simple life, reuniting cats by talking to them in the streets, which is really cute. And so he reunites lost cats with their owners by speaking to them, and they both kind of go off on their own journeys. Nakata goes to face a cat killer. It really goes wild. It goes wild. You think there's a murder, you think no, there's not a murder, then you've got spirits flitting back and forth, then you've got this librarian and this trans character who is really one of the best characters in the book. I mean, they're all honestly such good characters, and wow, I could talk about this forever. I've already talked about it once. Colonel Sanders from KFC is in there. Yes, my homeland, if you didn't know. the K of the KF&C. You've got a truck driver who restores all of your faith in humanity. You've got magical rocks. You've got fish raining from the sky, which, let me tell you, I did a quick Google search and I cannot figure out why in Japanese media I keep seeing fish raining from the sky, or why people are named Kafka so much in Japanese media, because I thought it had something to do with the author. Does it? I don't know. I didn't research it enough. If you know, please let me know. But fish were raining from the sky. After I read this, I noticed it. So I'm like, how many times have I not noticed this? In the movie by the same studio that did Your Name, I can't think of the name right now, but in the movie there were fish raining from the sky. In Kaiju number 8, there was a panel with fish raining from the sky, and I'm like, it has to be an ode to Kafka on the Shore, because the main character in Kaiju number 8, the main character in Kaiju number 8's name is Kafka. So you're like, you know? But there are a few famous people named Kafka, and what I saw online is that just maybe people in Japan like the name Kafka from the author, and I'm like, okay, no answers for me. There's a lot going on in this book, and the best way to explain it is for you to read it, but there's a lot of fantasy between the subconscious and unconscious, the duality of self, Slipknot, right? You've got young boy, old man, young boy with a somber view of life, old man with a happy-go-lucky but with a purpose, whereas the young boy doesn't really have a purpose. I mean, I just love it, okay? I could talk about it forever. And then you have people crossing paths with chance meetings. Oh, it's great. Some cats do get hurt. Be careful. And I'm always worried for old people. Alright, so very good book. Alright, I'm caught up to where my camera turned off. So, My Hero Academia, before you click off, it's not that bad, okay? Apparently people don't want to read My Hero Academia. I did not watch it, I read it, and I read 24 out of 24 volumes. I finished it when it was finishing this summer. So it was published in 2014, 2015, depending, and I actually went to some of the actors panel in Columbus this summer, cosplaying as Himiko Toga. I went with some friends who were also cosplaying as My Hero Academia characters. So this is shonen and recommended for like 14-year-olds and up. I know like middle schoolers are reading it, and unfortunately part of the characters, like these minors, are dressed a little scandalously, which sucks because sometimes I want to recommend these to kids, and then you turn to the back of the manga and you just can't, because their parent is standing there and this girl's dressed like that, bro. It's okay. My first impression was of the anime. So my first impression of the anime was that it was annoying, and it is a very Americanized kind of comic book material, so you know, you could see it being pitched to a younger audience. But I actually really enjoyed it. It follows Izuku Midoriya, a young boy born without a quirk in a place where quirks are basically superpowers, and you aren't really cool if you don't have one. And he has always wanted to become a hero because he idolizes this figure called All Might, like the main superhero. And he is unexpectedly chosen by All Might to inherit All Might's quirk. Izuku enrolls in the Hero Academy to train and pursue his dream, facing challenges and villains along the way. This book is about the true meaning of heroism, and I did like that a lot of the times they would provide flashbacks that would present information that came before. Like they would have a problem and it wouldn't just be problem solution. It would be problem, but oh, we actually already anticipated this, which could be annoying, but I actually like this because like I feel like plots can be boring sometimes, so I like when I'm like, oh wow, they thought of that ahead of time. That's good. Man, they know what they're doing. It does have some villains that I was really rooting for, and I do see a lot of the villains' perspectives. it wasn't a matter of Jujutsu Kaisen where I was like, ayo, I don't think making the world chaotic and having curses wreak havoc is gonna be awesome. But I understand that you're tired of fighting curses. Enlighten me, if you so dare. I will talk about JJK in a minute, but I could see some of the villains' perspectives in here. Anyway, I also thought I would like Todoroki more, but I didn't. Why? I don't know. He was too likable of a character? Is that a bad reason? I don't know. I do like his family dynamics, and I like that they had personality, these characters, but I don't like that the only time these side characters really came together, besides fighting in these different scenes, right? Because it's an action shonen, but they came together to do like a little talent show, right? But some of the characters I didn't even really get to see that much. I wish we could have seen these characters a little bit more. They're side characters for a reason, sue me. But in Basara, which I will talk about at the end if you haven't already watched my YouTube video, in Basara they give the side characters their moments, okay? Just saying. Alright, the final battle lasted a long time. Volumes, okay? And I actually liked that because it doesn't feel like you have led up to this thing and it's over immediately. However, I can see how it's annoying because you're punching somebody over and over, kicking them over and over, and they're not dead yet. Like, OP, really, a lot of people are overpowered in this, and if they're not overpowered, then they're underpowered. You know, there's a fine line between like realistic superheroism and not. So, kind of up to you to decide there. There was a point that Bakugo really shined. I was like, oh my gosh. And I think you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the anime or read the manga. And I think that this is a great manga for kids getting into manga if they like superheroes. I just don't love that the author proclaims himself as a perv and draws the characters in certain ways sometimes. I can't have all I want. This is anime, okay? Manga. Okay. So while I was reading My Hero Academia, I took pity on my partner who was wanting me to read Oryx and Crake for 5 years now. So I read Oryx and Crake. Sorry it took me so long. Okay. So Oryx and Crake is written by Margaret Atwood. I had never heard of this. Everybody hears about The Handmaid's Tale. I read her sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, The Testament, and honestly I didn't like the sequel. I'm sorry. It doesn't have the same vibe. It doesn't have the same wow factor. But I did really like Oryx and Crake now. When I read it and after I read it, I wasn't amazed by it. It didn't hook me. But I see why it was good, okay? I thought it was a standalone, and it's not. There were a lot of questions that were unanswered, so it makes sense. But I read the first one. It was written in 2003, but you could have totally written it in this year, and it would have a similar impact because everything that it talks about is relevant today. It's a sci-fi dystopian speculative fiction as a commentary on corporation takeover and the dangers of superficial enhancement and consumerism profit opposed to good morals. Morals, morals, morals. That's all I talk about, okay? So, knew nothing about this book, but it's set in the Earth in the year 2050. And a plague, man-made, has wiped out most of the population. So I'm very curious about if people were talking about this during COVID. I'm very curious, okay? Alright, so we got the main character, Snowman. Most likely the last human left alive. Middle-aged boy? I don't know, right? He reads like a teenager, like, reads like a 25-year-old. I'm not sure, okay? Snowman is revered by the Crakers, this group of genetically altered man-made humanoids that he teaches but cannot relate to. So he's living among his empty bottles in his lean-to, and they're like, Snowman, Snowman, hi, we miss you, hi. Let me show you this ritual thing, wow. So they don't really evolve like humans. I mean, it's hard to explain. Okay. So the writing, it flits between present day when the character is searching for food and how he's thinking about his memories and how the present came to be. So it goes to his childhood and when he's at school and how society is when people are alive before this plague. I'm so tired of this. I talk too much and my camera SD card file is too small. Okay, so back to oryx and crake. You have oryx and crake, the creators. Basically, this is like a play on biblical mythology, right? So it flits between present day. The character is like, oh my god, I'm gonna die because I don't have any food. And then his school days and meeting the other main two characters, oryx and crake, who are actually just people, okay? His real name is Jimmy, okay? So he's a strong character. I did not like him, and I think that's the point. I think the point is he is a young boy in a world about consumption, and this has ugly parts of humanity, which includes the dark web, unrealistic desires, and I mean, he defies his wishes. He sometimes goes for them even though they're gonna have consequences, like trying to enter into a romantic relationship with this girl when she is already with somebody else, and he's like trying to read between the lines. Ooh, does he know that I'm in his business? And he's scared of this guy, but he's also looking up to this guy, and he's also jealous of this guy. I mean, it was a real roller coaster, okay? And that's not to mention the action that goes on when he's trying not to get killed by these other genetically altered. I mean, it's good actually. He really contributes to the parallel of the perfectly scientific and successful crake and the ugliness of humanity. It explores humanity and it's a critique on societal destruction and consumerism. It was good. So Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Fairies was one I read this year. Came out in early 2023. It is a trilogy. The second one is out and the third one is to be released. I read this, it was cozy. It's a romantasy. It's supposed to be romantasy, but it is more fantasy than romance. And it is 1900s fantasy world, and this character has studied at Cambridge. It's kind of a scholarly work, like I said before. There are some like classifications of fae and how there are different types of fae. They're not all the Abelvin fae that everybody treats. Emily Wilde is your main character, and she studies fae creatures. She travels over to the village of Hrafnik in Norway to complete a study of the hidden ones, this elusive fae folk that nobody really has information on. She wants to be the first to catalog this, and she is there with her dog Shadow. Wow, her academic rival shows up. Wendell Bumblebee. Wendell shows up, okay? And he's a Cambridge professor. He does little in this book, but look handsome, and that might work for you. I didn't really get much from their dynamic. I mean, they banter, but like, he is very sunshiny and she's very grumpy. I don't know, I just didn't get much from it, but I did like the writing. It's a slow read at first for me. It does describe a lot of the things around her, her awkward encounters with the townsfolk who don't really like her because she accidentally does some faux pas and stuff. She uncovers some secrets. It's not super built up though. Like, a lot of what she discovers is stuff that she like already kind of suspected, or maybe you could predict. It's cozy. It held my attention. I was very curious to see what happened at the end. The ending was a little fast for me, but also I think it's not as bad knowing that there's a second book that maybe, you know, it will answer my questions and maybe it doesn't make it so bad that it felt rushed to me. It was missing a lot for me, but I can't really put my finger on what. I think you should definitely read it if you like cozy books. Okay? The Spirit of Science Fiction by Roberto Bolaño was my next book. It was published in 1984 posthumously, And one book I forgot to mention when I was listing some of my favorite books is The Savage Detectives by Roberto Bolaño. I read it. It was recommended to me by a friend, and it was really, really good, okay? So when I read The Spirit of Science Fiction, I thought I would really like it. Unfortunately, I didn't. Maybe because I'm missing something, maybe because it wasn't one that I would naturally like, but it was translated by Natasha Wimmer and published in 2018. It's a coming-of-age story. Probably why I didn't like it. It's about Jan and Remo. They're two poets in Mexico City, and they're obsessed with science fiction. It goes between snippets of like writings and letters that one of them has written to like science fiction authors, and I found that very interesting. Some of them had some like dreams, kind of like towing the line of fantasy, and I just didn't get a wow factor from it. I do think it's interesting that one of the characters is really exploring in the streets and meeting new people, and the other one's kind of holed up in the apartment. I think that is an interesting parallel comparison, but I just didn't get the epic factor that I got from the other one. That could be because published posthumously, or it could just be that I didn't soak it in. It's pretty short. Then we read Kaiju number 8 by Naoya Matsumoto, and it's a manga. There is 10 out of 10 right now in English, or I think so. I read 10 of them, okay. Born in 2024, so reading so much, right? It's a shonen, and kaiju are destroying Japan. You have the Japan Defense Force, and they're battling the kaiju, alright? And this main character, Kafka, he's always had a dream at a young age to battle this kaiju. He has this dream with his friend, Mina. Well, Mina makes it, and he doesn't. So he fails the shot at becoming a kaiju defense team person, okay? So he has another shot years later, which is great because right now he's stuck cleaning up the remnants of the kaiju battles, okay? He cleans up their carcasses. Not a very fun job. He's in his like mid-30s or mid-40s? Mid-30s? He's middle-aged, okay? So he has another shot of his dreams. While his friend Mina had been climbing up the ranks, for she's a big shot now, okay? And he becomes a kaiju, alright? And he's like, oh my god, right? Everybody's like that because they're like, there's only one person that knows he's a kaiju, sort of. A lot of the characters are memorable. It's pretty funny. It's very comedic. I just love that they made the protagonist like a 30-year-old. That's just really unique. And there's more to come, so I recommend it. Alright, then, in the middle of that, I was reading One Piece. I have not finished One Piece. I actually didn't include anything in here that I haven't finished besides manga that isn't currently finished. Or I guess One Piece. Like, I'm reading 5 different books right now, but I'm not gonna include them, okay? Started One Piece. It's my friend's favorite manga. I think it's a lot of people's favorite manga. I think that it is well deserved because I started reading One Piece and I was instantly obsessed with it, okay? The art is amazing. It's written by Ichiro Oda, published in 1997, still running currently. They just came out with a live adaptation last year and apparently it's really good. I don't want to watch anything until I finish it, okay? I've read 12 volumes so far, out of a lot of volumes. I've read 100 chapters. It's really good, okay? It's a fantasy action adventure. You got a pirate main character who wants to find the One Piece. Highest selling manga ever. You've got Luffy, the main character, with a little straw hat, and he ate a devil fruit, alright? And now he can stretch. Miss Elastigirl, boy with a hat. I already know I'm gonna love the series. The characters have a strong presence, they've got a good background, the world building's natural, keeps my attention. I love that in each One Piece volume, Oda has a special question corner known as the SBS, an acronym. Shitsumono Boshusuru, which is I am taking questions, and he takes the questions and he answers them, and sometimes he does not. Sometimes he judges you, and I love it. He does have a lot of things he shouldn't be saying, but we live for it, okay? If you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, you will most likely like One Piece, and that's my opinion alone. I like it. High school debut. This is where I got into my shoujo era. And if you have not entered your shoujo era, you do it with high school debut, and unfortunately, you might have a hard time loving the other ones as much as high school debut, because I think this one is top of the line. Written by Kazune Kawahara, 2003 to 2008, 13 volumes, high school romance setting, which is basically every single shoujo. I'm joking, but also every single shoujo I read after this is the exact same thing, but different. So you've got Haruna Nagashima, an enthusiastic former softball star. She decides in high school that she wants to change it up because she put all of her focus on sports in middle school, and she wants to be fashionable and she wants a boyfriend. And she's like eating up these magazines. She's like, ooh, that's the fashion trend. Let me wear a cute big sun hat. Fashion trend, fashion trend, fashion trend. Unfortunately, she looks ridiculous and she's not getting a boyfriend. So enter Yo Komiyama, who is cool and he's fashionable. He knows what guys like in a girl. So, short story, she convinces him to coach her in romance as long as she doesn't fall for him. Okay, that's the rule. Do you think that's gonna work in a romance? I'm not gonna spoil it for you. This is the best shoujo I read before basara, alright? Partly because I liked the fashion. I also thought that Yo was a really good romance character compared to the other romance characters I read before, and that might just be biased. I don't know. He's cool. The one shoujo romance I would recommend if I had to. The next one I read was Ao Haru Ride, which I think is Blue Spring Ride, and it's written by Io Sakisaka, 2011 to 2015. It's 13 volumes, and basically same setting. You've got high school, Japan, shoujo. You've got Futaba Yoshioka, the girl character, and Ko Mabuchi, and they were childhood friends. Ko Mabuchi moves away, comes back, cold and distant, and she's like, oh my god, what happened? But she still has a crush on him. It has a more somber vibe than the other ones I read. I did like the characters because they do have a memorable quality to me that some of them just don't. Futaba has become unfeminine because the other girls around her ostracized her before when she was herself and when she was feminine because they were jealous of her. And I think this is something a lot of girls can relate to just because of the way like society is. She stifles herself and she really doesn't act the same way that she would out of peer pressure. Once Ko comes back, she tries to reach out to him. He really isn't reciprocating. And she kind of starts anew. She makes some new friends, tries to move on from him, and she does that while he revisits his past friendships and tries to help a different friend through grief, which he is working through because while he was gone, he lost his mom. So both go through learning periods where they're accepting what they deserve and to be their true selves and to be happy, and I think that's beautiful. This was the point I knew I was experiencing the typical tropes of school animes or mangas because I started seeing so many patterns. Alright, they're all gonna have an athletic competition, all going to maybe try out for class president, I don't know. So I read I Want to End This Love Game. At this point, like, I had never heard of any of these shoujos I've read, okay? I was just clicking on stuff on the Viz Media app. This is where I discovered the wonderful world of $1.99 manga app, alright? And I'm reading. So I Want to End This Love Game. It's written by Yuki Domoto, and it's written in 2021, and you can tell because I was reading this and I'm like, oh, they're referencing like modern technology that I actually know. Cool. Because I mean, I just came from ones that were written in like 2003 with the flip phones. So this one has 6 volumes and it might be currently going on. I forgot to write that down. So you've got these characters. You have Yukiya Asagi and Miku Sakura, and in 6th grade, they're childhood friends. They decide to make a game with the objective to embarrass the other one. Classic child antics. So they do this by taking turns saying, I love you, and embarrassing the crap out of each other. 4 years later, even as they're entering high school, they're still trying to one-up each other. So talk about crazy. I don't know if I have that commitment. They are growing feelings for each other, but neither one of them wants to make the move into new territory. I think it's cute. It's cute, playful read. It reads very modern. Imakoi, Now I'm in Love. 9 out of 9 volumes. It's by Ayuka Hata, 2019 to 2023. Also reads like a modern anime. School setting in Japan, shoujo romance. So we have Kazuma Yagyu, who is the boy, and we have Satomi Miyazusawa. Satomi, she did not confess her feelings to the last guy she liked. So she's starting anew, and she is like, when I like this next guy, I'm gonna straight up tell him. I don't care how awkward it is. If I get rejected, I don't care. And when she meets Yagyu, this cute guy at school, she does it. And he's like, wow, cool. Yeah, let's go out. And boom. They see where it goes. Pretty standard, cute shoujo. Has a side romance with their friends, which was cute. Crazy special. Okay. Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay. I watched the anime, watched the anime movie, read the manga, and now we are awaiting the next season. We're waiting for the Culling Games. 30 volumes of manga, published by Gege Yakutami, 2018 to 2024, best-selling manga series, taking the world by storm. If you somehow don't know what this is about, you've got Yuji Itadori, he's got pink hair, and he swallows a cursed talisman. Why? To protect a jujutsu sorcerer, his name is Megami, who had just explained to Yuji that swallowing this thing, it's literally a finger, bro, okay? That swallowing it grants immense power to this crazy villain that they're fighting if the villain eats it. So what does he do? He eats it. He's like, ha ha ha, I'll be powerful and strong. Megami's like, what the? Because, bro, he didn't finish his sentence. Whoever eats it will most likely die. He survives it. And it's like, what? But by eating it, he accidentally absorbs Ryomen Sukuna, a demon curse that he is now host of. So he's possessed, alright? And so this demon looks like him, but with cool tattoos. Have we seen the guy who got the Sukuna tattoos legitimately? Because I have. Satoru Gojo. Alright, everybody's favorite boy. Megami's teacher. He brings Yuji back to the school where they train jujutsu sorcerers to use the cursed energy to do cursed techniques, unique attacks special to the user and or sorcerer families that fight cursed spirits. I know that's a lot of info. A lot of people critique Jujutsu Kaisen as not making sense or making so much sense that you have to explain a lot of it. It's a lot. Okay, Suguro, rogue jujutsu sorcerer and former friend of Satoru Gojo. Basically former lover. Okay, they were meant to be. Alright, I don't know what to tell you. This isn't a spoiler, alright? You just see the two and you're like, wow, they are homoerotic. I'm sorry, I got off track. Suguro, this rogue, right? He has plans to eradicate the jujutsu sorcerers, even though he himself is one, okay? And he wants to install a regime of cursed spirits with his posse, while Yuji is hoping to find all of Sukuna's fingers and eat them, to delete them and delete the threat of the self-proclaimed most powerful curse of the caste, Sukuna, who, like I said, is trapped in Yuji's body, kind of. Even though he can take over Yuji's body, sort of. I love Jujutsu Kaisen. Here with me, I would talk to you about it, okay? Trust me on that. I don't want to spoil, and I don't want to be here for 2 hours. I loved Hiromi Higuruma from the Culling Games. I'm excited to see a lot of the characters from the Culling Games. I am. Short and sweet. I'm pretty sure Gege didn't want to write a battle shonen manga. I think he wanted to write horror. They pushed him into it, but I don't think the ending's bad. I thought this was a great manga, and I'm excited to see what else he does. Then we have Name of the Wind. Oh, man, if I didn't read Interview with a Vampire, I think this would have been my book of the year. It's written by Patrick Rothfuss. He's only got 2 books in this series written besides novellas. So he's got the first one and the sequel, and there's supposedly supposed to be more, but he's taking a break from writing. I've only read the first, and let me tell you, was it good. He wrote it in 2008. It's a fantasy, and it's really set the bar for fantasy for me. He did amazing work with the prose, he did amazing work with the characters, he has some time jumps, and the character is just so enamoring. I don't know what to tell you. Magic exists in Timarant, this fantasy world that the story takes place in, but it obeys a well-defined set of rules and principles that can only be exploited by those who have trained in its magical, professional, and scientific use. It's a great magic system, in my opinion. So you have Quotha, who's gone into hiding and assumed the identity of Kote in order to keep a low profile. He saves a traveling scribe known as Chronicler from spider-like creatures called Scrael, whereupon Chronicler, recognizing Quotha, asks him to record his story, Interview with a Vampire. Upon consenting, Quotha tells Chronicler that this will take 3 days, because there's 3 novels. It naturally cuts in between the interview. It's beautiful, there's so much world building. It's got religious themes, like almost medieval Christianity going on, with the mythological and historical foundations going into the world building, ties those into the current motivations of the main character, and plays a role in the current day events. It really lays the foundation for the character, making us understand his family, his hurt, his hope, making us very invested in what happens to him. I just wish there was more to read. There's one part that focused a lot on the killing of a beast and a retrieval of substance, and it took a long time when I was reading it, but I didn't even care. I was just like, man, I hate that this is like 1/8 of the novel, because I want 1/8 more to read. It was good. I recommend this to everybody. My friend actually met Patrick because he was getting something signed for his friend, and I'm jealous. I like this. It felt original. It was good. Beastmaster. 2 volumes. Kyosuke Motomi made it. 2006 to 2007, Japanese school shoujo setting. You've got Yuiku Kobazuka, who runs into Leo Aoi, a transfer student everyone is scared of. He's very intimidating. He attacks, right? Okay, well, Leo, this beast, right? He will freak out whenever he sees blood. He loses all of his humanity. He goes whoosh. And why? I'm not sure. So she finds out he's actually very sweet, has a way with animals, which makes her envious because animals just don't like her. So she really hits it off with, I didn't like this. I'm sorry, okay. It's too short. Half of it is one-shots by the author. Don't even remember them. They weren't great. When I was reading them, I was like, these aren't great. I'm so sorry. Please don't show this to the author. I am done. Lovecom, lovely complex. Actually, I did include this manga that I haven't finished, and I read like 3 volumes out of 7. It's 2001 to 2007 by Aya Nagahara. It's an enemies to lovers high school romance where the girl, Risa Koizumi, is a sporty, tall girl. Very tall. And the boy, very short. His name is Atsushi Otani, and they grow to like each other, but they fight a lot, and it's very comical. They fail in all their classes. They've got identical taste in food. They act pretty childish, but they bring the heart and soul, and they make their friend laugh, and yeah, it's lighthearted. I'll finish it. Then we've got Dawn of the Arcana. Alright, read this in one night, 17 volumes, 2009 to 2013, a shoujo fantasy romance. I started reading this and I desperately thought, have I read this before? I'm not sure, but it reads like that. You got Princess Nakaba of Sanan, red hair. Too bad for her because nobles have black hair. So she's shunned, locked in a tower, dramatic. She's forced to marry Caesar, black-haired prince, arrogant prince, second prince of Belquat. She hates him at first, and I hate him at first too. Because he's like pulling her hair out here and calling her names and crap. I'm like, he's supposed to be the romance? Like, I understand enemies to lovers, but this is just not it. He was acting a fool, and all of a sudden changes. Don't know where, don't know how. He gets a haircut. I actually liked his hair better before it was cut, but it was an act of solidarity, okay? Nakaba's practically a political hostage. She only has one attendant by her side, and his name is Loki. He has dog ears, but he's not a dog, he's an Ajin, which is a race of beings in this world with animalistic traits who are looked down upon in society. So Nakaba learns that when she sees blood, she turns into a beast. Just kidding. This is not Beastmaster. When she sees blood, she has a secret power that activates the arcana of time. And then she could see the past and the future of both herself and others. I'm starting to wonder if she took inspiration from Basara, which I will talk about. Oh my god, I won't stop talking about it. Nakaba makes sacrifices in order to prevent foretold events. I don't know why, and I know if I was in the position, maybe I would make the same mistake, but why are all these people who can see what happens in the future always trying to stop it? It would drive me crazy. It would drive me crazy, but something worse could happen, okay? She's trying to save her country. She's trying to save, even though they outcast her, she's trying to save those around her. She's trying to make this a place where everybody loves each other. The book wasn't super investing. I did read it very quickly, but I didn't love it. She isn't a character that I really had a deep connection with. And there's like a love triangle sort of. And there's a plot twist that I didn't see coming at all, but makes complete sense and actually made me mad. Not because the plot twist was something I didn't want to happen, but that it felt like it was there for a shock. Anyway, the romance wasn't romancing well enough for me. Nana by Yazawa. I didn't finish it, partly because it's on hiatus and it's not completely finished, also partly because I read it through physical copies and read it through the Viz Media app when my physical copies did not physical enough because I only had a few. But the Viz app doesn't have them up to the current issue because it's got mature themes. 21 volumes currently. It's a shoujo, but it's not in high school. Nana Komatsu is this naive, impulsive, hopeless romantic that moves to Tokyo to reunite with her current boyfriend. And then we have Nana Asaki, same name, but she's prideful and she's cool and she chooses her career in music over boys, even though it breaks her heart. She's making plans to be the vocalist in her next band, and she boards the same train as Nana Komatsu, and they accidentally meet again at the same apartment viewing, and they're like, why don't we share the apartment? Enter cute friendship, enter depression. Say that because I thought this was gonna be a cute series, okay? And right now my heart is breaking. So maybe it gets better? Okay, fashion, perfection, wearing my Vivian right now. It really tells the heart and soul of female friendship and of soulmates. And that's what I'm gonna say. I Am Legend, horror, which is so crazy because tell me why I like mysteries and like devoured true crime stuff, mainly because I like watching lawyers argue, but tell me why I've read more horror, even though I hate horror, and I say hate horror, okay? I don't hate it. I am a chicken. So tell me why I've read so many horror novels. I Am Legend is a 1954 post-apocalyptic horror novel by Richard Matheson, and it is iconic. I think a lot of people really attribute how influential this was for post-apocalyptic media, and I believe it. Like, you don't even have to show me the examples. It read like a modern book to me, but I think that's because so many people took inspiration from this, that this is a standard. When I think about the 1950s, I can only imagine how crazy this novel would have been. My main character, Robert, he is the last human alive, probably. After the outbreak of the pandemic the year before, everyone else on the planet has been turned into a vampire. Isn't it interesting that I read Interview with a Vampire and Oryx and Crake? Because this is kind of like, not really like if you match them up, but interesting coincidence. He explains why he believes he is not affected by the outbreak, which I loved the reason. For a book that has few characters, it's moving and it's well done. I'm actually very happy. I read it so fast. When I was reading it, I realized, yes, I have seen this movie because I thought maybe I had, and I had. However, I didn't remember vampires. I totally remembered zombies, but I was young, and they do kind of act zombie-like. All right, Little Women. I read Little Women, and I had a slow start. This is by Louisa May Alcott. It was published in 1968, 1969 in 2 volumes, which makes sense because it is a hefty book. It's not super long, but my copy is chunky, and it's a coming-of-age novel I actually liked. Maybe I only like coming-of-age novels from a female perspective. I'll have to look into that. This is a book that is mainly women characters, and it's written very, very well. I loved it. I love the commentary on it. Jo is one of my favorite characters to date. She is amazing, and it took me a while to get into it, but when I did, I couldn't really put it down, and I really wanted to watch the movie, and I did, and I recommend this book to everyone. I love how well built this family is, the little tidbits that you get in their life, and the characterization is really good. The Sailor on the Seas of Fate by Michael Moorcock. Written in 1976, 4 years after the first. So this is the second book of the saga, but it is chronologically the 3rd book in the series because it follows the events of the Fortress of the Pearl between Elric of Melniboné and Sailor on the Seas of Fate. Elric is the last emperor of the stagnating island civilization of Melniboné, and he wields the cursed soul-drinking sword of Stormbringer. Let me tell you, I love Elric. This book follows Elric as he escapes from the Young Kingdoms and encounters a strange ship. Blind captain, crew of eternal champions, Elric begins a journey through an alternate world where the line between dream and reality is blurred. And I think that's all I'm gonna tell you. I totally recommend it. Firefly Wedding, written in 2023 to current. It is so definitely modern feeling. It feels like a web manga. There's maybe 6 volumes. It's written by Ereko Tachibana, and this is a shoujo manga, but it's not in high school. Winning. A historical romance set in the Meiji era. It's got violent, mature themes. This is an interesting one. It isn't complex. It's a fun little read. The boy character is unlike any I've read before, and I say that because if you like Jack the Ripper, you would like this main character, except he's very upbeat, okay? He's like a sunshiny assassin who doesn't care who he kills as long as it's not the girl he has a crush on. Afflicted with a heart condition, Meiji-era noblewoman Satoko is determined to secure a marriage that will benefit her family before she dies. But she wants whoever she marries to know that she has an illness. Her father is not a fan of this because who's she gonna marry? Everybody's gonna turn her down. Well, unfortunately, before she can even marry anybody, she's targeted by a mysterious assassin named Shinpei. She's kidnapped. The assassin decides to rescue her. Why? Because she has street smarts, and she says, listen, my fam has the money. Me, I'll straight up marry you, bro. I'll marry you, you can have my money. And he's like, ooh, wow, marriage, sure. And boom, there they go. He breaks her out, and then they're on this island, she realizes, and it's an island where people come to sleep with the girls. And these girls you learn about, and you learn about this island and how you can't get off the freaking island unless you have special clearance. So then their next goal is to get special clearance to leave the island to be returned to her family. Unfortunately, not so smooth sailing because it gets dramatic. Her old bodyguard pays a visit, and yeah, it's pretty good. Oh my god, we have made it. Celebratory sip. We have come to Basara. I literally am getting the best feelings ever. I could cry right now, okay? Basara is probably my read of the year, okay? And I say that because Interview with the Vampire really hit home for me. It really was amazing. But it is an Charlie, honey, please don't do that. It is Charlie. Oh, baby. Interview with a Vampire, everyone knows about, practically. In Basara, I feel like I was digging in Pokemon Mega Ruby. I was digging in there and I found that hidden gem, okay? And oh my god. Basara is written by Yumi Tamura, also known as Tam Tam, and there's 27 lucky gorgeous volumes. I can't find physical copies, and the physical copies I did find online were expensive. So, unfortunate. However, I read this on Viz Media. It's a shoujo fantasy romance. It's adventurous. It's organically feminist. It's emotional. It's amazing. I'm fangirling. You can see my review of it in the last video. I don't go very much into it. I avoid spoilers. I avoid talking about most of the characters, for God's sake. And it's because I want you to read it. I want you to read it. I want to gatekeep this so bad, okay? I really do. But that is not giving credit where credit is due. And you should read it, okay? Especially if you like slow burn romances. Okay, the very last thing that I read this year is a little bit of a disappointment. And I say that because it didn't really meet my expectations. I read 19 Claws and a Blackbird. I also did a review on it. And it is written in 2020 by Agustina Basarica. It's horror psychological fiction. And it's a short story collection. A few grabbed me. Not every single one grabbed me. The redeeming quality is that no matter how absurd the stories are, most of them relied on the reader to create the horror, or it relied on vulnerability, fantasy, and womanhood. With the femme fatale, with justice, danger, walking home alone. I think I needed them to be a little bit longer for them to have more of an impact on me. But some of them were very powerful. I don't know. Some of them felt rushed to me. You could probably change my mind about it in the comments. Thank you all for joining me. I am reading One Dark Window, and I am loving it. I didn't expect to love this so much. The book Leo said she liked it, and if Leonie says she liked it, I will most likely like it. Is that always the case? No. But I trust her, and I trust that our tastes are similar, and I'm loving this book, so I might just tell you what happens in it. Yeah. Okay, Charlie says that's the end of the video. Thank you for listening, and happy 2025. I hope you have a wonderful year, and good night.